I'd like to call the Thursday, March 22nd, 2018 board meeting, Board of Education meeting in the boardroom of Stanley T. Williams to order at 7 p.m. Roll call.
Vice Chair Papa-Holzer.
Here.
Secretary Sienna.
Here.
Jana Balsamo. Here. Carolyn Candelora.
Here.
Vincent Mace.
Here.
Marcy Anafrio.
Here.
Cynthia Rice.
Here. Please join me in salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Due to the February 16, 2018 resignation of Sarah Querfeld as board chair, the first order of business will be the election of officers to serve until the next regular organizational meeting in November 2019. We will now accept nominations from board members for the office of board chair.
I would like to nominate Shauna Papa-Holzer.
I would second that. Oh, sorry.
Any other nominations? Please cast one vote. We will now accept nominations from board members for the office of board vice chair.
I would like to nominate Cindy.
I'd like to nominate Marcy.
I believe we moved to a ballot vote, am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah, there's paper and pens courtesy of the high school.
I don't read them out loud, am I correct?
No, you don't have to. You could just make a pile and then just say.
Well, read them out, but you gotta do the
I don't know what the
top anyways,
policy
right?
is, so.
Go ahead, it's fine. You don't have to, but it's fine.
Okay.
Just make some.
Marcy? Cindy? 2 for Cindy? 2 for Marcy? 3 for Marcy? 3 for Cindy? 4 for Marcy? I believe I have to save these, correct? Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We will now accept nominations from board members for the office of board secretary.
I nominate Beth Sienna.
Are there any other nominations? Please cast one vote. We can move to committee assignments. It's Exhibit A. So Cindy, most of us are new on the board, so we just got on these committees, but what interests you? Because that's going to make committees the most successful, so you kind of see the blocks that are open.
Right. I guess wellness. That meets during the day. Are you okay with that?
It'd probably be helpful if
Right.
we let the time, Cindy. so
Yeah,
we
so
know
Yeah,
where-
wellness meets like about, when school gets out, like 2:30, 3 o'clock. Carter Welsh runs that, and it's like 2:30, 3 o'clock. Communication meets, they don't really have a schedule yet, but it meets at night.
Okay, I can do that.
You want that? Policy, when, I'm not sure, you guys are meeting
We'll
at
be
night,
meeting
right?
in the afternoons.
In the afternoons.
Usually 1 and 4.
1 or 4. And then pension meets quarterly. What time does that meet, Don?
Pension meets 4 p.m. 3 times, and usually noon in August. So it's 4 o'clock in February.
Hence the
May.
emptiness. Because Sarah was available during the day to
November,
do
I
these
think.
things.
I mean, is it an option ever to change some of the meetings during the day since so many of us work?
Pension can't be changed.
Absolutely. The board committees can be changed. ACES is
Right,
not
yeah,
scheduled by
ACES.
us, pension is not scheduled by us, and permanent project building is not scheduled by us.
So policy used to meet at 7:30 in the morning, and then we moved that to the afternoon. So if it's more convenient to bump that out a little later, then that's, if it works for Beth and Vince.
How many times does wellness meet? Monthly?
I think they were on monthly.
Wellness committee meetings?
I think they were on monthly.
I don't think they're quite as frequent as monthly, I think they're quarterly.
Quarterly?
Did they go to quarterly?
I believe so.
What is wellness? I'm
Dr.
sorry.
Malfoy comes in.
Right.
There's reps from each group, the nurses, administrators, teachers.
Right. The doctor for our district and some of the school nurses and Carter Welsh runs it. And
Cindy, do you want me to get a schedule and send that to you? And if it's something that you think you can do, then we can notify and we can add you to it. And then we were not guessing on.
Yeah, that would
And
be
Cindy's
fine.
a nurse, so it really fits right in her wheelhouse.
I mean, if it's quarterly, I could do
Okay.
a late lunch if it's a day that I'm
Sure.
available. And I can schedule my.
it was monthly when it first took off, and maybe since it took off, they've scaled it. Right, when we met at NBIS, right.
So one question is, do we have a representative for pension?
Karen's
Carolyn's
an
an
alternate.
Okay, right, but then I think,
I got sworn in, they said that I need to get nominated if they want for.
To be a regular member?
Regular.
that's what I was concerned
Right.
about, because that's a town committee. So it's probably safest to make a motion to do that.
Okay.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to move Carolyn from alternate on the pension committee to a full member.
I second it. Roll call? Okay, roll call.
Chairman Papaholzer,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anafrio,
Yes.
Secretary Sienna,
Yes.
Janet Balsamo.
Yes.
Carolyn Candelora,
Yes.
Vincent Mace.
Yes.
Cynthia Rice.
You'll have to get sworn in again. After the town council approves it, you'll have to get sworn in again.
Lisa Valenti can inform us whether you need to be sworn in
Yeah, I
again.
thought she said I didn't, but maybe I'm
You
wrong.
may not, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, right?
Hmm.
All right, so I guess that's it. Move on to visitors. Oh, it's quiet today. Okay, moving on. Student representatives?
The North Branford High School Career Fair was held on March 2nd with a variety of representatives from the local area attending. Guidance counselor Carrie Esposito and transition coordinator Caitlin Roshka organized this event that focused on career exploration. Students grades 9 through 12 attended this important event during the morning blocks. Additionally, UConn student researcher Enko Berezki, under the direction of Dr. Joseph Renzulli, is completing a research project within Mrs. Danner's classroom this marking period, focusing upon the integration of technology and creativity. Dr. Renzulli is known as the pioneer of research and programming for the gifted and talented. His work continues at UConn in the School of Education, and he has been recognized nationally as one of 25 of the most influential psychologists in the world. North Branford High School seniors presented their capstone projects on March 14th, some scheduled for April 11th, with faculty providing feedback and using a rubric to score each presentation. Students were required to complete a series of steps prior, including submitting a proposal, journal entries, and a reflective paper. This portion of the project was the accumulating event for this important experience focusing on career exploration.
Ms. Dawes and the Kaleidoscope organization will host game night on Friday, March 23rd. Monies raised will be used to offset costs associated with the printing of the annual Kaleidoscope publication that includes poetry, short stories, and songs written by NBHS students. Students were allowed to submit pieces for consideration through March 9th. The annual spring musical, Footloose, is scheduled for April 6th, 7th, and 8th. Tickets have been on sale at the box office during afternoons throughout the various dates during March. During the morning of March 14th, NBHS students and faculty participated in a school-wide walkout. The event was done as a symbol of unity among the members of the high school in memory of the fallen lives of the teenagers in Florida. Students had the option to decide whether or not they wanted to participate. In addition, they received stickers to write their own personal messages that were then placed on a banner and sent to Parkland to show our school support.
Very good. Any questions for our student reps? Before we dismiss you to go home and do your homework, I know this is a very busy time with the college applications, and I have 2 seniors, so I understand. How is that going, and where are you at in your process? Have you selected your schools, or?
Sure. So pretty early in the year, I was accepted into Boston College after being applied under the early action program. So that was around December 14th. And after quite a large gap, I heard back from UConn and Sacred Heart University, which I got accepted into. And now I'm just waiting for Brandeis University, which is supposedly coming out tonight. So that'll be exciting.
Oh.
And,
Good luck.
Thank you. And Connecticut College. And whatever school I attend, I'm planning on being a part of the ROTC program there.
Very nice.
I've applied to 7 schools and I've heard back from all of them, but among the favorites are Sacred Heart University, Fairfield University, I got accepted into Northeastern, and I got accepted an hour ago into Boston College.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, I plan on majoring in nursing. So.
Very nice.
Thank you, guys. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
We'll let you know next meeting.
Good luck tonight, Mr. Madul.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
So exciting.
We'll move on to approval of the minutes.
Sure, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the February 8th, 2018 Board of Education Budget Workshop, number 2, as submitted.
Second?
Discussion?
Just clarification on the third page, it talks about the automotive and greenhouse program, and it said Todd Stifler stated that any work oil changes brakes is paid for by the owner of the car, and then next sentence says the automotive program will have oil on hand, but the work is paid for personally by the owner. So maybe just to clarify that the staff, whoever does it, they have to bring in their own oil and filters and things like that. It doesn't come to the school, right? Is that the clarification?
Correct, they have oil on hand to have mock engines that we've purchased through Kohler and Ruth Stratton, and the kids can service those engines. They're on stands and they can pull them apart and rebuild them. There are things that kids do in the classroom that will require things like motor oil or things like that. But anybody who brings their vehicle in to get it serviced, they're required to bring all the supplies.
Okay, just to clarify that a little bit.
And they don't pay for the labor, they just bring in the parts. Perfect, thank you. So then I'll make my motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
Okay,
Yep.
I'm not quite sure how you want to amend it. but-
I'll give it to you after.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you after.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, abstentions?
Abstain.
I forgot about that.
Make the next motion, I wasn't there.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes for the February 15th board meeting?
So moved.
Discussion?
Second.
I'll second it. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
Abstention.
Resignations. The superintendent has received a retirement resignation from Miss Marie the Alessio World Language Teacher at North Branford High School, effective at the end of 2017-2018 school year, after 46 years of dedicated service to the students of North Branford.
So I'll make a motion to approve the retirement resignation of Mr. Alessio, World Language Teacher at North Branford High School, effective at the 2017-2018 school year after 46 years that we're sharing glasses, 46 years of dedicated service to the students of North Branford with grateful appreciation.
I just would like to echo what was read and thank Ms. Alessio for her incredible commitment to our students in the Italian program. It was always a very popular language choice and always battled with Spanish as the most popular because of Marie and because what she brought into the classroom. I don't know the record, Don, in North Branford for years of service. I have to believe that 46 is knocking on the
pretty close.
Knocking on the door.
I don't remember how many Ann Coles had, but I know she was also up there, but that was many years ago.
So special thanks for the thousands and thousands of lives that she touched and changed with her commitment to our students. And wish her nothing but the best.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm going to need a second for the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There are no appointments at this time? Yeah.
I am not going to have a leave request.
Okay.
Okay. We'll move to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I'm pleased to have two members of NDIS here this evening, Carrie Sabetta and Tia DePalma, members of the intermediate school staff who have been accepted as fellows to the Woodrow Wilson History Quest Fellowship Program. This is a great honor, and with that comes a great commitment from our two teachers who will spend this summer working and preparing to bring back inquiry-based learning. And if they're going to tie it to games, to our curriculum, to integrate them into the classroom, create their own games and assess learning outcomes. They also will receive 50 hours of professional development that they're able to bring back to the district. This is something that's become very popular. It's very competitive to get into these programs. The application process takes a great deal of time and effort, and I'm honored to have them here and ask if they'd like to add anything. I don't want to put you on the spot, but
We're very excited. Can't wait.
Who are you anyway? Stand up.
so much fun. When I think of the term gamers, I don't think of you two when I think of my kids as bringing games back. But well, thank you for giving your time this summer and dedicating to our students. They're truly going to benefit, so we greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Palma, I almost didn't recognize you until you stood up.
Okay, there are no donations at this time under communication. The board briefs are attached, and I'm sure you've had a chance to read through them. The administrative team is here if you have any questions for them regarding any of the specific items that are listed in the board briefs. If not, I will continue on. Okay, we have our monthly spotlight. As you are aware, over the past several months, we have been working with each school and different departments to present highlights of things that are happening within the school system. I'm really pleased to have members of our Bridges program here this evening. A number of them are present. I'll ask that you stand and just identify yourself, because I know that Mr. Mace is going to call you out if I don't do that. So,
I'm going to introduce them in a minute. I can introduce them if you prefer.
I'm going to introduce Suzanne Wright, who's going to take it away, and thank you, Suzanne.
Good evening. I'm Suzanne Wright, the Director of Special Services here in North Branford, and tonight it's my pleasure for the district to spotlight the Bridges program in North Branford. The Bridges program mission statement says the Bridges program shall provide students with opportunities to increase their participation in a typical classroom environment, make strong academic progress, regulate their emotions, manage peer relationships, and create a positive self-concept. The Bridges program will provide individualized academic and behavioral instruction to ensure student success. And certainly that mission statement describes what these folks do every day as they work to support our students in the Bridges program. I think it also talks about the broader commitment that's been made by the Board of Education, the superintendent, and the administrators of each of our buildings in wanting to support the inclusive programs for all students in North Branford schools to ensure that our students stay in our schools to the greatest extent possible and to provide individualized support to help them to be successful. So tonight you're going to learn a little bit about how the Bridges program is unique to the needs of students in our school, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about how the program started. A long time ago, which is surprising when I went back to look at how long the program has been in place, North Branford, like many school districts, like really all school districts, has always had students who have experienced difficulty managing their social, emotional, and behavioral problems. It may mean that students need more help academically or managing their feelings, whether those are feelings of anger or frustration, or feelings of anxiety and frustration and sadness within school. And so we've tried very hard to be able to provide supports to help those students. Staff have always made significant efforts to meet the needs of those students, but often we were not able to provide the extent and the intensity of services that students have needed, which have resulted in a number of outplacements over the year. When I looked back, I became director in 2001, and at that time we had over 40 students that were placed in out-of-district placements. In March 2004, though, we had 2 students who were in 2nd grade who needed a lot of additional support. And so in January, February, we talked about getting those students ready, looking at appropriate placements, because at that time it was hard to find placements for students with social emotional needs that were very young. And what we decided at that point was to try to build a program of our own, and started again with the support of the Board of Education and the superintendent and principal at that time at Stanley T. to begin the Bridges program in March as a pilot program by hiring a teacher, thinking about the tuition monies that we would save and putting those monies into hiring teacher and paraprofessional staff. And we did so in the students. That was the beginning of the Bridges program. That next year, those students moved into 3rd grade, so they moved to Totucket Valley, and the program began there. At the same time, the high school folks had been talking for a number of years about the needs for students that had similar kinds of difficulties, finding an alternative way to meet their needs within the high school. And the high school folks were very concerned about not just students with disabilities, but many students who exhibited the same kinds of behaviors, whether it was difficulty coming into the school, walking through the hallways because that was a stressful experience, having difficulty managing their schoolwork, their feelings, and personal problems. And so at the same time, we talked about how we might be able to develop such a program. In part of my role is to work with out-of-district placements, observe those students and meet with their families. And really, as luck would have it that year, we had 3 students who were in really good shape in terms of managing their behavior and their academics. And we also who were ready to return and really wanted to return to North Branford High School. And we also had a student from North Branford High School that we felt needed more support than we were able to provide here, and we're looking for a placement for her. So again, at that point, we got together as a team and said, what can we do differently here? And spent that summer developing a program to start at North Branford High School, again, using the tuition to hire staff, to buy furniture. The high school was able to provide space in that program, and the high school staff were very amenable to having these students return to their programs. And so then the high school program started that year. At that point then, the ACES, some of you may remember the ACES Collaborative Alternative Magnet School, CAMS, that was up the street, they closed a few years later. And so then the Bridges program felt that we had a lot to offer for those students who would be coming back to North Branford. But again, they left North Branford High School for an alternative magnet program and were reluctant to come back to the North Branford traditional program. And so those CAM students were returned. We developed the program, held an open house, and really doubled the size of our program as a result of the closing of that school. And then our TVS students by that time were ready to go to 6th grade. And so the intermediate school program was developed to meet their needs. And after that, in 2016, Jerome Harrison identified a couple of students who were really having difficulty at that grade level. And so Dr. Welch and Mr. Schoonmaker and Ms. Parker and I talked about how we could meet the needs of students at Jerome Harrison. And Jerome Harrison School's program started last year and is making nice progress this year. Right now, we have Bridges across the district serves approximately 30 students, and that's students both with and without disabilities. It's important for you folks to know, as Board of Education members and the community, that each of these students was likely to have required additional significant support services, whether that meant in the use of a one-to-one paraprofessional that was required, an outplacement, psychiatric services, or behavioral services. And we've talked before about the cost of that, and the average cost of a out-of-district placement usually is $60,000 to $70,000 a year, and some of them are over $100,000 a year. In addition, as equally important, is that many of these students, especially at the high school level, would never have continued. They would have dropped out and not earned their high school diploma because school was a really challenging place for them to be. And we're delighted to see so many of our students graduate after being in the Bridges program. This year, 2 of our high school Bridges students graduated early and are already participating in community college experiences, and that happened last year as well. So I'd like to introduce you to some of the staff here who are here this evening who are part of the Bridges team at all of our schools. So Nancy Bianchi is the coordinator of special services, and folks want to stand up so people know who you are. Mickey DiCaprio is the Bridges teacher at Jerome Harrison School. Dave LaCroix is the Bridges teacher at Totucket Valley. Annie Maselli is the social worker, and Jillian Colanese, the school psychologist, both at Totucket Valley Elementary School. From the intermediate school, Caitlin Ward is here as the Bridges teacher, and Joan Williams, the school psychologist. And from the high school, Matt Tortora is our Bridges teacher, and Eva Strowski is our school's social worker. It's also important to remember that these folks are here, and we very much appreciate all of the support that they give to students. In addition, we have many paraprofessionals and other certified staff members that serve to help us. We have general education teachers who serve on the Bridges committees at our schools and welcome our Bridges students into their classes. So it truly takes a village to make this program work. So right now we have a video to share with you tonight. Thanks to Matt Tortora and Nick DeLizio for putting that together to talk a little bit about the uniqueness of each of the programs.
Thanks, Francis.
To be a member of the Bridges committees across the district, because the work we do for students is so important, and we're able to design individual programs to help students meet academic and behavioral success. Our committees meet on a regular basis, and we utilize the input of our teachers, our nurses, our mental health staff, outside providers, and parents to ensure that our students are successful. Our district is so fortunate to have Bridges as a resource across all 4 buildings, and our students certainly benefit.
When you have these small children with huge emotions that they don't understand, it makes it difficult for them to be available for learning. They need an environment in which they feel safe and held accountable for their actions with both dignity and consistency. The program is suited to the individual needs. We have some children that just need a pop-in a couple times a day. Some children need a much more restrictive environment. We can give that to them. Each child that I have has its own behavior plan. The goal of the Bridges program is to meet the students' emotional needs, and then we can work on their academic needs. We use a number of different incentives. Each child has their own behavior plan. They earn to come in here for rewards. They can choose iPad. They can choose to work on Legos, coloring pages, and then we have the loftier goals, which this is a goal that a couple of my students are working on. Once we fill the path to the polite pirate party by being polite all day, then we earn a party. The last polite party we trust you. And when they go in there, and if the curtain's up and they shut the curtain, that means leave me alone. Leave me alone for 5 minutes, and at the end of 5 minutes, then I'll either crawl down there or they'll come out and we'll talk about what was on their mind and what they should do about it.
The Bridges program here at Jerome Harrison has been instrumental in meeting our students' needs as well as improving our whole school positive climate.
My name's David LaCroix. I'm the Bridges teacher at Tutucket Valley Elementary School. This program is truly the program that its participants need. The opportunity for students with significant disabilities to attend their district school instead of being outplaced in an alternative setting can be a life-changing circumstance. I worked at an alternative school for 13 years, and the biggest reason I made a change and came to North Branford was because of my belief in the philosophy of the program. Access to positive peer role models, district curriculum, and regular education instruction are all distinguishing characteristics of the program. This structure, along with a team of professionals, gives the students the best opportunity to become successful learners and positive members of their school and community. But to me, the most important part of this program is that it often achieves its goal. It provides students and their families with hope. Although the structure of the program provides a great start, it's the support of the administration at every level, along with the teamwork, the dedication, and the commitment of the mental health staff, the general education teachers, the special education teacher, and the paraprofessionals, who are all working cohesively together as one unit that really makes the Bridges program successful. Of course, the typical day is individualized for each student, but generally, students are in their classroom with their typical peers throughout the school day and included in all aspects of the regular education classroom. At times, when needed, students might be removed for behavior intervention, mediation of social conflicts, academic assistance, or if they become anxious with the situation. But most often, they return to class in a short time and move on with their regular day.
Hi, my name is Andy Selling, school social worker at Tutucket Valley Elementary School. Each student in the Bridges program receives a minimum of weekly counseling to work on any skills they're lagging, whether it be maintaining and establishing friendships, coping skills, frustration tolerance, self-advocacy skills, or building self-esteem. They're able to work on these skills in a safe environment and practice among their peers. Then with consistent staff support throughout their day through the Bridges program, they're able to practice these skills and then incorporate them into their daily life.
We often think of special ed services as assisting in meeting the academic needs of students, and we forget that there are students who have a different type of need, but it's just as important. The Bridges program supports students who need help regulating their emotions so they have the opportunity to be successful in the classroom.
Bridges to me has been a great success. Everywhere I've been, I've had the pleasure of being at the high school at Jerome and now at TVS, and I've seen students be so successful with the program, with the support it provides, with the home base that it gives students to feel successful, and I've also seen the impact that it has on other students. So I think that that's an amazing effect for our district, for both kids who need the program and kids who don't. But I think specific to TVS, it's been great for me to see Mr. LaCroix, who really all of the programs are modeled after, be in action, providing that individualized support for students behaviorally, academic, emotionally, really whatever they need so that they feel successful and confident in the school.
I'm Caitlin Ward. I'm the special education teacher in the Bridges program, and I'm Daniel Johnson, the social worker. We currently service 10 students throughout 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. Students begin their day with a check-in in the Bridges room. They have their lockers right outside of the classroom, and then they come in and they check in, and we help with organization, keeping track of their homework, kind of reviewing their schedule for the day. And then students either stay with us for homeroom or they go back to their regular homeroom. And as the day goes on, most students attend their regular classrooms with Bridges support. We currently have 4 paras that provide support in the inclusion setting. And depending on the class or the students either stay in class for the whole block or they might bring their work back to the Bridges room for one-to-one or small group support, depending on their needs. Students are scheduled to be in the Bridges room for their resource or AST block. And again, we just assist with academic, organization, behavioral needs at that time. We have a leveled behavior system system that the students follow. And so during our resource time, we address their goals and the behaviors that they're currently working on, and talk about the progress they're making and any difficulties that they might be having. And then at the end of the day, we again have a checkout with them, and we help with organization again to bring everything home, and just kind of make sure that they're set for the night, and just review their day and provide any sort of praise that we can. So it's really just kind of, it's their home base throughout the day, and they use it however they need to throughout the day.
So all the kids in Bridges are spread out through the different teams that we have in the building, so all of the teachers are involved in one way or another in the Bridges program throughout the course of the day and throughout the course of the year. And we have kids that are in and out all the time, so sometimes we have kids, more kids on one team, so we work more closely with those teachers. It just really kind of depends upon our population at that time. We also work very closely with the guidance department is also involved. Myself as well as part of the guidance department. We also have the school nurses involved. We have our administrators that have worked with very closely on some difficult cases, and the school psychologist also helps us out as well. So it really is a team approach in dealing with some of the kids and helping come up with the best plan for them, trying to be creative so that they can be successful here at school.
The typical resource setting, for one, it only serves special education students, where Bridges is open to special education and regular education students together. But it's also, the resource room for the special ed students is available during just that set resource time. It's about 45 minutes of the day, and the rest of the day those students aren't really able to access the room, whereas Bridges is available to our students at any time throughout the day for whatever need might come up or anything that they need it for.
And we also have a smaller setting here in the Bridges resource and a regular resource room, because at any point we have two different AST periods, which are called our resource periods as well, that we only have 6th graders in here for one period of time, and then when they leave, the 7th and 8th graders come in. So there's no more than ever than having 6 kids in the room at the same time. So it is even a smaller setting than a typical resource setting.
At MBIS, our Bridges program is led by Mrs. Caitlin Ward. Mrs. Ward services students who have both behavioral and academic needs. What makes our Bridges program so effective and special is that Mrs. Ward is able to service these students in a much smaller setting than the students we have in their general ed classrooms. Bridges student schedules are hybrid. They have Mrs. Ward at times they'll go into the general education classroom setting. Whatever the specific needs are for the student, that's what the schedule looks like. We've had a lot of success stories, and I hope that the program is continued to be supported by the Board of Ed.
Hi, I'm Matt Tator, and I'm a special education teacher in the Bridges program here at North Branford High School.
Hi, I'm Susanna Mel. I'm a business psychologist at the high school.
Hi, Eva Straussby, the social worker here at the high school and in the Bridges program.
Hi, I'm Lauren Miller. I'm a special education teacher in the Bridges program at the high school.
Here at the high school, we have the support of the administration and staff so that we can develop individual plans to meet each student's behavioral and emotional needs. With such flexibility, we have the benefit of providing each student with an opportunity and a platform for success. We take pride in working as a team. Some of the members of the team include support staff, like the school social worker and school psychologist, our paraprofessionals, the administration, the general education teachers, guidance, and of course, the school nurse.
Here at North Branford High School, the Bridges program is really unique. Each student's program is really individualized based on their needs. Some of our students go to all of their classes within the general education setting with paraprofessional support or independently. Some of our students also take their classes within the Bridges program, and this offers them a small class setting, and in some cases they also have the support of a special education teacher and paraprofessionals. Some of our students also take online courses, which is really unique here at the high school. They are allowed to take elective courses, and in some cases they also take some of their required courses, such as algebra or science courses. Because our program is so unique, some of our students have had the opportunity to graduate early. By graduating early, this offers them the opportunity to go on to places such as Middlesex College and Gateway to start with their general requirements. We also offer incentive trips. We try to do one trip each month, and there is a different criteria that the students have to meet, whether it be missing assignments or a certain grade average in their classes. If the student meets the particular criteria for that month, then they can months, we've also gone to the mall, and the students really enjoy these monthly trips. Our incentive-based field trips have proved to be very beneficial because they have helped our students achieve all of their goals.
Another aspect of the program that we take pride in here is the ability to provide students with an opportunity to transition out of high school. Aside from college visits, we can also provide students with an opportunity for vocational training.
As the social worker and the school psychologist, our role is to develop relationships with each student that is a member of the Bridges program. That includes providing social and emotional support to the students. That could include counseling as well as consultation for the staff and for the even outside team, including the school counselors, our administration, our school nurse, and so forth.
And we also communicate with parents and outside providers such as therapists and hospitals in order to best support our students.
Well, it's been my pleasure to work at North Branford High School over a number of years, and one of the most rewarding pieces, looking back at my career here, is the start of the Bridges program at North Branford High. We're able to do that in concert with our special education staff and also our general ed staff. The program has been very successful, serving both populations, and that was one of our first goals when the program started. We did visit some other schools, and we've seen the program grow over a number of years. And also the clientele within the program has changed, and we're able to meet those needs with the staff who are in place and the support services. Our guidance counselors play an important role in the program as well as our mental health staff. So educators throughout the building have been invested in the program for a number of years, and that's served the needs of many students who have varying types of needs who attend MBHS and who are participants in the program.
Take this opportunity to thank the Board of Education, the superintendent, and all the principals for supporting the Bridges program as we've grown. We couldn't do it without your support, and it's made all the difference in the world. And I certainly, as director, extend my great appreciation to those folks who work with students every day and make it work for each of them. And to the parents who have placed their confidence in us to support their students and who partner with us to make it work. So it takes a village, and this village of North Branford has been very kind to the students here, and that helps them to be successful.
Well,
So thank you for your support.
Great teachers, paras, staff that can service these kids. Fantastic.
I just want to recognize and thank Suzanne for her leadership. This wouldn't be possible without her guidance and commitment to every student in the district. I've had the good fortune of working with many of our staff members here at all levels, and I see the underlying piece, the link, that they truly care about our students. They develop relationships with them and they transition them on from K through 12 and beyond. So we're very fortunate. I want to thank you for your continued support with these programs. They are life-changing for many of our students, and without their support, many of these students, as was mentioned, would be outplaced at a significant cost. We're able to keep them here with their peers and have them gain successes because of their efforts. So I personally want to thank all of them. Good job, Suzanne, thank you. Any questions?
I just had a question with the high school, with the field trips. What are the objectives taking to trampoline parks and malls? Are there any, like, do they learn how to, I don't know, like buy stuff? Or I just was curious when I was watching it.
So with the high school, they're mostly board-based trips.
Okay.
So our goal is to get the students who, you know, they might have emotional or academic behavioral needs, and our goal is to get them to sort of try to meet our expectations. And I know sometimes we ask a lot of them, and we ask them to work really, really hard, and if they meet those expectations, we reward them for it. And we sort of get them out of the building and sort of a day to rest their minds a little bit, to show them a sign of good faith from us that, you know, if you really work hard, you can meet the expectations.
I think that's great.
We're happy to provide something like that.
And then do you guys do other things besides, like, they mentioned trampoline mall, like, do you take them to, like, the Beardsley Zoo, or do you do anything academic with them, or
Yeah,
is it
we've done trips like that in the past. A lot of times, you know, our main focus is to get our kids together in a setting where they're enjoying each other's company more than anything. You know, we have an end of the year picnic every year. We'll do, 2 years ago, there was a team building activity at a ropes course. So it's really to try to have all of our students treat each other as if they're family and not feel different than anybody else in the high school. And in order to do so, we just really want them to be as comfortable as possible.
Right.
And the team building part of it has been really important as well. It's not just the interaction between a teacher and a student, or a teacher, a student and another staff member, but when the students are spending time and they're out having fun and developing relationships, they're also the ones who say, you know, you got a biology test tomorrow, you've got to come to school, and I expect to see you here, or come on, you can handle this, or you can let that go. So those kinds of relationships are built in many places, and we're also in the process of eliciting from students what their interests are. And we planned a number of things that students were not interested in, and so what we found that they weren't working toward achieving the goal, so then it wasn't having the desired effect. And now we're also looking at some community service projects to incorporate as part of that process.
Great.
I think it's also a social opportunity. Many of our students are socially struggling, and I think that being just out in a mall is just, believe it or not, I mean, maybe for us it's, you know, just something we take for granted, that we sort of know how to, you know, negotiate that.
Yep.
For them, I think it's just a whole other experience, you know, and I think it's valuable for lots of reasons.
Yeah.
That's also a reason.
The program, I think that our life skills program, where they go into the community and they learn those skills of shopping and how to act responsibly within, you know, certain confines of where they are, and to learn those skills, that's a separate program than what we're doing with our Bridges program. So.
Fabulous, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to our next agenda item, the board member workshop. We have discussed in the past dates to schedule a board member workshop, and with the number of new board members, the sooner that we could possibly schedule that, the better. I would like some direction from you. CABE has a package program that they will come down and do for us. They can meet in the evening. The program is tailored around our needs, but it usually runs approximately 3 to 4 hours. Okay, there is a cost for that program, but it's, you know, they're the leading
Yeah, I
people
think
with
it's well
boards of
worth
eds,
it.
and it would probably be a good idea versus going through one of our 3 attorney or firms and having an attorney come in and do it. So I leave that up to you.
I've sat through both. I've been to 3 CABE trainings and I've had attorneys do it, and I think it would be best if CABE did it,
Okay.
personally.
If
I
you'd
like
like,
the idea of CABE as well.
if you'd like me to get some dates to you, and I can cost this out for what it would look like, I can send that to you, and then you can not
Yeah,
vote
please.
on it, but you can read information, and then we can kind of come to consensus. I think what I'm hearing is that you'd like us to pursue CABE. And I'll
I
look
do.
at appropriate dates.
about CABE?
I've gone to the training, so it was very worthwhile. so-
Okay,
I'm open.
You girls okay with that?
okay, I'll pursue that, thank you. As we discussed, the renovation presentation is going to be pushed out to the April board meeting because of the lack of continuity in the school week with inclement weather. We've not been able to get together. So Marie Diamond is going to present. Those of you who do not know Marie, she's a town council member, former board member, who has chaired over 30 NEASC accreditation visits. So in her role as a former educator, she has that expertise to go into and assist and look at a facility and look at, offerings. And this is being done at no charge, so it's a real bonus if we were to bring an outside firm in to do the same type of work that Marie does and continues to do. It would be quite costly. So I want to thank Marie, and we look forward to presenting in April. And Marie's here tonight. Vince is gone. You don't have to stand, Marie. You can just wait. There's, before we start with Ms. Wooten on the preschool update, under field trips, I know Catherine Trainer, Katie Trainer's here this evening, and I'm thinking at the last board meeting, the trip to Florida was on the agenda. Catherine, help me with that. Or Mr. Stuffler. A couple months ago, and we voted and approved the trip. Okay, I'm not totally losing my mind. So Catherine is here this evening. Are there any specific questions that we have? Catherine, you're here for the trip to Florida, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just I'm looking at you.
I'm actually on my way too, so I'm here for hours of experience.
Oh, you're here as a student. All right, sit back down. I thought you were Okay, we're going to fast forward. Catherine, I thought you were here for the Florida trip. You were here for part of the administrative program. Okay, Tracy, with that said, I'm going to get off the stage and give it to you. Tracy will update all on the preschool sign-ups and where we're at in the process.
So what we have this evening is I have a few slides to show you about our program at Jerome Harrison. It is actually called the Board of Ed Preschool at Jerome Harrison. It is our Smart Start program that is being funded partially through a grant from the state in Smart Start funding, and then through the Board of Education and the district. This year we did something a little different. We've started to combine, or at least showcase, our 3 preschool opportunities in the district together to show that they are all North Branford Board of Education public school offerings. So we have our FRC, which is housed in this building. It's our Family Resource Center, which is really supporting working families. It's open from 7 to 6 o'clock at night with extended care. And it is on a sliding scale. There is a tuition, but it's based on a sliding scale. We have our PRIDE program, run by a special ed department, which is at Jerome Harrison, which also includes our regular ed students as role models and peers in the classroom. And then we have our Smart Start program, which is a full day, full year program that is really targeted towards students that have disadvantages and meet certain criteria, such as an income, a specific income, which is actually 75% of the state median income. They also could have possibilities of having developmental delays, English language learner. It could be children of parents that have difficulties, a parent who's incarcerated, a parent who has been through substance abuse, things such as that. So what we did this year for the first time was have the preschool fair, which it has always been done, includes both North Branford Public School preschool offerings as well as community offerings. So we invite anyone in the community that offers preschool that would like to come, private preschools, to have a table here and display their curriculum, some pictures, some activities that they do, and there's always people here on hand to speak to, as well as the FRC, our Jerome program, and Pride. Then we had an open house on February 28th that allowed the parents to come in and see the FRC program in the classrooms. And what we did at that time was provide descriptions of the other two programs, and we had a slideshow for the Jerome. This is not the right one. However, accountability is very interesting as well. So the Board of Ed members that attend the curriculum meeting, you received this PowerPoint during that meeting. And for those of you that were not here, we left it on your place. What we've done this year in our open house is provide one application for all 3 preschools. So students, teachers, and parents were allowed to look at range of offerings and then check off which programs they were interested in. So then we took the applications, my office will go through them, tomorrow's last day for applications. My office will go through them, anyone who's interested in the Jerome Preschool, we will check for criteria. The students that meet criteria will be offered placement. Once we determine who will be placed, we will have a lottery for all other students that were interested in the program. Once the lottery is done, anyone who is also interested in FRC, those applications will go to FRC. So we should know by the beginning of April the enrollment and registration of our program. Currently, we have over 17 applications for the Jerome Preschool and over 25 for FRC. That in both cases, that's more than the placements we have to offer. So there's definitely a need for additional preschool, which is a goal of the districts in our strategic plan. If we are able to work that into our program, we will gladly do that. So if there's any questions?
Thank you, Tracy. It's been a wonderful initiative for our youngsters. We've seen great successes. Obviously, that was the grant that was authored by a combination of staff members, chaired by Tracy. And our goal was to add a second class at that pre-K level, but obviously it's based upon our ability to fund that. We are in the process of designing and implementing a connective walkway between the FRC building and the school, and that is going to be done in the spring. Those monies were also from the Smart Start grant as well. So we're coming to the close on the first year, and I'm really pleased with the outcomes and what we're seeing. It's really a great leg up for our students who then enter full-day kindergarten that next year. They've had a full year of pre-K at 4, and then they enter obviously full-day pre-K when they're turning 5. So any questions for Ms. Wooten? Okay, the next item on the board agenda, I was asked to put on there, and Mr. Winnicki is distributing materials at this time, and I'm just going to kind of walk you through them for the national event that was held on the 14th. I was fortunate enough to be present on that day and participate in what I thought was a very well planned out and meaningful event. Several documents or notices that were sent, permission slips prior to the event taking place. And I'll give you a chance to look at them as I just read through this, but most importantly, it was made very clear to all that this was an optional event and that students who did not want to participate could remain in a supervised location in each school. The events were all planned with input from the staff and student body and ultimately approved by my office. Our primary goal was to provide a safe opportunity for students to unite and feel a part of this national event. At no time was this a political event, as our focus remained on the 17 victims and for safe schools. The event was similar to the memorials that we held when I was present here for the middle school and the high school with the Sandy Hook tragedy that we held in the auditorium. For many of these students, this was their first opportunity to make their own decision as to whether they would like to participate or not. And I commend our students for peacefully expressing themselves, whether they stayed in the cafeteria or in the parking lot. And as we endeavor to foster independence, critical thinking, and strong leadership skills, it is paramount that we provide opportunities outside the walls of our classrooms. I'm including Pam Johnson's article from The Sound as she walked the event with our students and witnessed firsthand how well organized and respectful this event was. And I also passed out a... They went out? Anyone got the end? From Shipman and Goodwin. I know there was conversation about policy with these events. There is no policy. If you read Ann Littlefield's comments, I spoke with her today. She made it clear that they used the First Amendment to guide them in decision making, and that this was a school-sponsored activity, and it was one that was pre-planned, organized, safe, in an environment that we controlled. It was not political in nature. And it was interesting in our conversation, I quoted her saying that if it was a memorial service, that it never would have gotten the national attention or reaction as the word walkout, which I thought was interesting. So at this time, there's information in front of you. I know you're going through it quickly. There was a question about, well, what would happen if, there was a walkout? Well, in our student handbook, I attached 3 pages, page 24, 25, and 65, that clearly articulate if a student does leave the building at any time without permission, there are consequences. And on page 65, similar to that statement about organizing or engaging in a walkout. So she said, as long as you have that language in your handbooks, it's clear. So at this time, if there are any questions by the board, and I just put a lot of information in front of you, feel free to ask them. The administrators are here as well to answer any questions.
So I have a question. And I know that it's stated that this was not a political walkout. However, I think the issue is that it was the same day that originally started with it being a walkout against the amendment of being able to bear arms. And I think that's where it got a little confusing, because prior to knowing about this being a walkout for 17 people who passed, it was originally for the gun issue in the United States. And I think that's where it got a little baffled, maybe, if they chose to do it a different day.
I think the whole purpose of the day was the unity and their ability to come together. This is the first time in my 25 years that I have witnessed a national movement for kids saying, we never mentioned the word guns. We didn't have posters. We didn't have any of that. Kids came together and we're saying we want safe schools.
And I understand that aspect of it.
So it's not political in any way.
And you could say it's not political, and I believe you that within our school system it wasn't political, but there was a political undertone prior to this, which I feel you can't get away from, because politically, before this walkout was even known to represent the 17 children who passed, it was a walkout for guns. And then it kind of turned the page weeks down the line saying it's going to be a walkout for, and I think that's where it gets really complicated. And I understand you're saying that's not what it is, but that's what it started as, and then it changed. And I don't know how you take away.
We never advertised it as anti-gun.
I know you didn't.
We didn't. I know North Branford, and I can.
But I'm saying the
speak to
media,
other communities and what transpired, and we were so pleased and so proud of how our kids handled themselves, whether they wanted to or not.
I agree.
We have just under 600 students in the high school. Probably 75 stayed inside, and the remaining students went out. So that was the split in participation, and those who chose to write a message did. Those who chose to write a message didn't, and it was really, for me, to sit and watch, and being an educator and a lifelong educator, our ability to come together with our students as a staff, as leaders, and as human beings, to say that, when we come into our schools, we want them to be safe. We want our children to be comfortable coming into the building. We want our staff comfortable coming into the building. And the national attention that it got, I think it loses its effect if we do it a day later. I mean, there's the opportunity for young adults to really make a stand and say, we want safety, we want to memorialize
So how many of
these
these kids know what the Connecticut gun laws are? How many of them know
We
what
weren't
their
a gun
legislator?
event. It was not a gun event, so that
But
would be.
see, that's what I'm saying.
Ours
This
was not.
initially started
I can't control
concrete,
that.
socially wise,
I can't.
media wise. So even with you saying it's not, it started that way. It's almost like putting up a foundation.
But it's crystal clear. The statement that was read made it crystal clear that it's not
And how we
political.
advertised.
And we can't,
But that's
worry about what the rest of the United
That's
States.
what our school has said, where the media has said, and everybody else has said.
But we can't But we can't worry about what the media is saying. I mean.
I would say just do it on a different day than what
So the Board of Ed's role is to set policy, oversee budget, and evaluate the superintendent. So we can bring this into a policy
think we
venue,
should-
Carolyn, and I know that you had some other bulleted that issues to see if we'd like to move it to policy. Why don't you bring those issues
So
up?
the other issue I had was there were pictures on social media through one of the local newspapers. And I looked at that and I was wondering if these children who were shown here had permission to even be put onto social media. Because I know a few kids that even I used to work with who cannot get their pictures taken or, so I had a question on that safety.
I have to look at the kids in the picture and find out if they have releases or not. I can't answer that without seeing the picture.
So that's another, I mean, that was just another.
It's no different than a sports person going and shooting a picture at an event at a school and their picture's in the paper as part of their article. They're not clearing that picture to be in, or the stands in the background of the athlete participating, they're not asking for permission. So.
And then,
I can't say that Jerome is excellent at following that policy.
Yeah, and they all do, and they all have signage.
Ours at our levels in reverse opt-out in the handbook.
If you want out, you sign out.
right, but that's my
So,
question with these kids
I'd
there,
have to
did
look at
they
the
opt out or
specific
did they
kids.
not? To
Do
me,
you
that
know
was
of
just
kids
a
that
flag.
opted out? Is that why you're asking?
No, I just.
You don't
Then I don't
I
think we
don't
should
know.
make it an issue. I think if somebody had an issue, they would have brought it forward already.
But you don't have a specific name of it?
No, I just know that there are
Okay.
certain kids in other schools that aren't, and I'm like, well, if that was them, just for future, to me, it was just a flag for future.
Well, I think if they had an issue, they would have come forward with it already. If they had an issue that they weren't supposed to be photographed, they would have come through with it already. So I don't think we should be looking for trouble here. I mean, I think this was a good thing, and we're turning a good thing into a negative because of some Facebook posts.
Well, no, it was done through the newspaper and they were walking out, and I'm just saying that with the safety with certain kids, I know certain kids can't even, their parents can't even know where they are.
Do you have
or
anything
whatever.
positive to say about the event? You don't have.
You know.
You don't engage with the audience.
We want Carolyn, I know you had one more point.
Just, I would like for both sides to be recognized, and you did a good job doing this, so I will read that up. But, and I think NDIS did a phenomenal job, because they had the kids being inside 4 walls in the cafeteria. I was a little apprehensive with the high schoolers going out, where everybody knows that these kids are going out at what time and where they're gonna be.
Well, we didn't, just so you're clear of your information, we didn't release the path that we were walking on, and we worked in concert with the North Branford Police and our security team. So we had 9 people on campus in that area that day. They never left the grounds. They walked around the back parking lot and back through behind the school. And the roads was blocked off, and we had not only the chief of police and the lieutenant, the 2 detectives, but we had 4 of our security people as well. So no one ever came near any of our students. So it was well thought out, it was calculated
Well, I
and well
think
planned.
NDIS did a phenomenal job with that, because I felt totally comfortable with 4 walls being around the children, and this is what happened, you know, it's just what happened and how these, so I commend NDIS for keeping it into the school system.
I just want to be clear that at no time were any North Branford High School students in any danger, and that we took methodical steps to make sure that they were isolated, and we had people walking with them, and the road was blocked, and there was no accessibility to our students. So that's important that you know that.
Yeah, I think where there's a will, there's a way, but.
Is there, I will be honest, my daughter participated with my encouragement, and it had nothing to do with my political views, because I personally, and this is not as board chair, this is as a mom that I'm speaking, my daughter Callie is in 6th grade, and she asked me why she would walk out and leave school and choose to leave, and she said, some kids at school are telling me it's about guns, and I don't know anything about guns. What is our take on it? I said, I'm not going to tell you my view on guns, because this is so multifaceted, Callie girl, that guns is the very end of it. How about those kids that are being bullied in school, or the kids that are sitting alone at lunch? How about walking up to that kid? Or how about all these mental health issues that is a breakdown in our system? I said, so there's so many little pieces, it's like an onion that you keep pulling back. So you are gonna stand up for people who can no longer speak for themselves. And you can make your choice, and I'll sign the permission slip, and you just tell me, you make your choice on that day. And obviously she's an MBIS, and she told me she walked, and she told me some friends did, and she said some friends didn't. And she said, and at the end of the day, they were still all friends, and it was still fine.
Absolutely.
Now, is this something we should move to policy so we can outline things like?
Ann Littlefield said that she has nothing in policy for this. She can come down and talk to us about it, but she clearly articulated the First Amendment. And I just want to echo what
I'm
you just...
talking from a security standpoint, though. I'm going to guess in your career, in my lifetime as a mom and my students, there's going to be more walkouts. So how do we determine what are school-sponsored walkout and what's not? Obviously, I was in support, but I just haven't determined that.
If we have no insight or acknowledgement of the planning and organization of the event, and we're not aware of it, and kids go out on their own, there's nothing we can do about that. And they would be in violation of our handbook policies on 24, 25, and 65. So there'd be proper action taken for those students. That very well could happen, and that's the reality of it. This was an event that happened throughout the nation, and there were many mixed reactions. Some kids went out and then kept walking and walked to Main Street to Town Hall. Some kids had snowball fights. Some laid on the floor in the gymnasium for 17 minutes.
Not in our district, you're talking about other districts.
No, I'm saying in other towns. So everyone handled it differently, and there were different reactions in different communities. And so ours is organized, it's structured. We knew the culture of the event, and we took measures to bring the security on. And I think
So why not make a footprint of that so you have it for future reference?
Absolutely.
The security piece,
Right.
the signed release piece, so that when you're looking back at a successful event, what did you do right? What could you tweak? So it is in policy, and the next superintendent, the next principals, we're all not going to be here forever. So it's nice to write good things down.
In guidelines, but in policy, because of as Ann will articulate to you, that with the changes and the way that it comes about with freedom of speech and everything else, there are no policies for Shipman, who's the leading firm in Connecticut in educational law. So we could have her come down and explain that to you and why it's not written and in stone. I mean, this I think is a document that, here's your footprint right here. When you look at Mr. Steffler's PowerPoint, and what can we do after this event? And you go through the 6 or 7 bullets of safety. Do not prop doors, do not open lock doors for anyone, do not wear hats. But then the last page of his PowerPoint is what you just said. North Branford is a small community. It provides tremendous support during good times and during times of need. Remember to always show compassion towards one another. You never know what challenges another individual is experiencing. We can't control everything, but we can control how we treat each other and how we look out for everyone's safety. I think that in itself, that one page exemplifies what we all want. And this was witnessed and read to every student, every staff member 2 weeks before this event even happened. So our underlying thing was about what we just talked about tonight with, mental health and being there and reaching out and being the one to sit with somebody at the table, asking someone, how are you doing today? Building that culture and climate like we have with PBIS to make sure that we are in tune as administrators, as teachers, and as fellow students to red flag when something doesn't seem right.
So is it acceptable if we all have time to read this and
Absolutely.
And then
It's a lot to
collect questions that we can
digest.
send to Ann Littlefield, get them answered, and make a decision from there? Is that fair?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Just as, in terms of the policy, and we have in the past had Ann on a phone conference with the policy committee during the meeting.
Okay.
And so that's an option.
Save us some money
if we ever wanted to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think the events
And
were
that's it
very
for-
well
for my report.
held, and I commend everybody. Negotiations going on in the executive session. We're going on,
Yeah, we're going into negotiations.
well, committee reports, we can go
Right.
to executive session after.
Now, the discussion of the contract is eligible for executive session, but in all candor, nothing's really changed from the last time we had a discussion. And the only reason this wasn't presented last time with the other two was because they hadn't had their meeting to ratify yet. So if you want to go into executive session, we can. If not, I also have the motion available to approve the contract.
I do have one question. I do have one question. I don't really think it's executive session. I know we put the AFSCME groups together for negotiation because we were trying to get them all on the same page. I think it was the secretaries, the nurses, the custodians, and the CAF. Yeah, so we were going to try to move them all to an HSA. Did we do that?
Yeah.
And everybody, they're all equal, each one of them?
Yep. All the same.
They're all the same, HSA?
Yep.
Okay.
And actually, for the custodians, their percentage increases were identical to the secretaries.
Oh, okay, gotcha. No, I just wanted to see if we succeeded in that,
Oh, yeah.
because we
Oh, yeah.
rolled one contract one year just
Yep.
so that we could
No.
get them all on the same.
If we hadn't been doing that, then I would have asked for the executive session, but no, it's,
Yeah.
they approved, I mean, I think it actually was a little more of a struggle for their side to get this approved by them, but it's the same as everybody else's.
Okay. So what's your motion? Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve the collective bargaining agreement between the North Branford Board of Education and Local 1303-54 of Council Number 4 AFSCME custodians effective July 1, 2017 through June 30, 2020.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call?
Chairman Papaholzer?
Yes.
Vice Chair Anafrio?
Yes.
Secretary Sienna?
Yes.
Janet Balsamo?
Yes.
Carolyn Candelora?
Yes.
Cynthia Rice?
Abstain. Abstain?
Right, exactly, exactly.
Thank you. And then I'm also beginning negotiations with the paraprofessionals, but we only have our second meeting on this coming Monday, so we're not very deep into that yet.
Okay. We're back to that again?
Oh, yeah. Time flies when you're having fun. Right, Char? And that's it?
We'll move on to the Budget and Operations Subcommittee.
Okay. We had a meeting at 6 o'clock. Budget status for this year looks pretty good. The only thing that's still a little bit in the negative is the rentals. Only by $1,600, so we're pretty good in that. The budget calendar, we have to meet with the town council on Tuesday night for our presentation on the budget. That'll be at 8 o'clock at the town hall, if anybody's interested in some riveting PowerPoints. The deadline for the early retirement incentive is April 6th. High school boiler update, it's running. We didn't have to rent one. And hopefully this one should be more efficient and slightly better temperature control. And well, TVES, we were very fortunate as somebody saw the fire, and the fire department's response time and how they handled it was fantastic, and it averted a big crisis.
And I do want to acknowledge the North Branford Fire Department Companies 1, 2, and 3, Chief Seward, Bill Chody, John Florio, all the response teams that came out that night, Saturday night. The call came in at 9:45. They were there early into the morning, into Sunday. We're back on scene and did an amazing job. So to have a volunteer fire company that is so dedicated Many of those firefighters have children in our school system, and to go in on Sunday morning, Don was there when I got there, and they had cleaned the entire boiler room up from that night. So when we came in on Sunday morning, there was no water, it was clean, they were venting and the windows were open. It's just, you don't see that. So kudos to the fire department.
And thank you, Don Scott, for coming out on the weekend as well, and Bill Chody.
Was there.
Bill Chody was there that night and the next day. Thank you to him. I'll tell you, that man, he's everywhere.
Curriculum?
We met right before this meeting at 5 o'clock today. We went through a PowerPoint on the North Branford Next Generation Accountability Report. We are doing pretty well on that. Have a spreadsheet that we're going to go over next meeting, so I have to go through that. We will be changing our poster for the North Branford Public Schools Strategic Plan, just retweaking it a little bit, but going by the foundation of what we have. And I don't know, is there anything else? We talked about the nursery school that you guys saw the slideshow on as well.
Absolutely. So we just discussed the 12 indicators on how schools and districts are categorized by the state and where North Branford stands in each of them. So the spreadsheet that the board received talks about the last 3 years and how we've progressed. So they're going to take that back and review it, send me any questions, and we will have another presentation in our subcommittee, and partial will be also presented during the board when we talk about the school improvement plans and what our schools and districts intend on doing to help make sure our students continue to progress. And then we also spoke about the preschool, and as Carolyn mentioned, the revised strategic plan, which the board approved last year. A 2-page summary was given out, and new posters will be coming not only here, the banner, but also in the schools.
Thank you. There was no pension meeting. We'll move on to policy. We have 5 policies with supporting documents for first read. Might I suggest that we take these policies, read them, and send our questions to Dawn so that we could address them during the next meeting? Is that acceptable?
And I just, a couple of comments. On 1260, I don't have any information yet from our medical advisor because there was this really had to do with the addition of administration of Narcan, and the policy committee had a question regarding the impact of doing so, both with someone who had an opioid overdose and perhaps someone who hadn't. So we have to get that information still. And we also talked a little bit about what schools were doing in terms of the access to student records, because there are a couple statutory changes. Frankly, I think those changes, we don't really have much choice. Those are statutory. The one for the Narcan is optional. It's not something that the board has to do. But it looks like what our schools are doing is it conforms with the policy. But what I can do is I could have our attorney and review what the schools have sent me back in response to this and just make sure that, you know, everything's okay in terms of what their individual protocols are. That wouldn't change the policy, but just to make sure that we're following all the rules that we need to follow.
Can I just add that
Sure.
for that particular one, I had the question because my concern was what would happen if you gave it to someone who did not need it. And I did a little bit of reading on it, and it doesn't look like there's any issue. But in our policy, the nurse would have to be trained to give it, and I guess there's a nasal spray that they can do it as. But I still have concern if it's the nurse, if she's out of the building, which happens to sometime. Who would do it? Who would take on that responsibility? Would they be trained?
Right.
That kind of thing.
I look at it similar to the EpiPen, and we have a registered nurse here who, you know, is well-versed in that. And I think it would be similar to those types of protocols with if it was an opioid overdose and you were, so you would have a layer of people who were
Right, but
trained.
an EpiPen comes from a prescription. You know, a child has to have a prescription, some kind of doctor, somebody
Right.
that gave it, where this, it's not a prescription, it's just.
Right, it would be under the Good Samaritan, and we'd have to run it through Dr. Norfolk.
So I.
And other schools are doing it, that's the good news, we're not trendsetters in this. Other districts have done, are doing it and actively have, Narcan in their district, so we can certainly find out how they went about some of those questions and get accurate information.
I'm just backing up to 1120 school student discipline. It is the first read, but Ann Littlefield had said that we can leave it at 16 years old to be expelled, or we could move it up to 17. But then there was some discussion in the meeting about tutorial, the hours for tutorial between a 16 and 17-year-old. So that's what we have to think about.
Okay.
Excuse me, the Shipman and Goodwin's response to some of the questions is on Exhibit F, and then Exhibit G is actually the statute. And we also tried to break down the changes in the graduation requirements. Hopefully that note from Tracy and myself and table was helpful. And then we did have 2 second reads, or approvals.
Is it my understanding that P1020 is not going to be up for approval, Beth, because of that question of the 16 versus 17?
No, that's 11.
No, that's 11.
Okay, okay, so the other 2 are.
The first read, 11.
So 1020 and 1245 would be eligible for approval.
We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve policy P1020, student attendance, truancy, and chronic absenteeism as submitted.
I'll second.
Discussion? Are we okay to move to a vote? Roll call?
Chairman Papaholzer?
Yes.
Vice Chair Anafrio?
Yes.
Secretary Sienna?
Yes.
Janet Balsamo?
Yes.
Carolyn Candelora?
Yes.
Cynthia Rice?
If you read it, you can, then abstain.
Abstain.
That's fine, that's fine.
I'd like to make a motion to approve policy P1245, health assessments as submitted.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call?
Chairman Papaholzer?
Yes.
Vice Chair Anafrio?
Yes.
Secretary Sienna?
Yes.
Janet Balsamo?
Yes.
Carolyn Candelora?
Yes.
Cynthia Rice?
Abstain.
That's fine.
It's not like reading.
These really were statutory changes, though, so it's not, they weren't things that there really were a lot of options.
Extension can change the vote.
Sometimes there's wiggle room for the board, and sometimes there's not.
Janet, did you go to the ACES?
Yes, I did. Okay, so I went to the ACES meeting on March 8th. We talked about Cape Day on the Hill was March 15th. We talked about what's being discussed at a legislative level. I guess stability and predictability for funding priority is what they're talking about. Fingerprinting is an another big issue they're talking about. And we also talked about student walkouts. The legal issues regarding policy was mentioned and what other different towns were doing. And then they had a guest speaker, Thomas Hennick, I think.
Tom Hennick,
Yeah. So he was from the Freedom of Information Commission. So he was talking to us about access to public meetings and public records, what we do about notices, Board of Ed, but also like town council, and extends outwards into public groups. He gave us a little cheat sheet for notice of meetings, which I photocopied. I'll give out. It was helpful to me because I haven't been trained yet, so all this public, non-public, executive is extremely confusing. So we talked about that a long time. And then we also got a budget, so it's budget time. And we got one packet of the many packets we will be getting. So this packet was like for 10 different buildings. They have a budget for each building. So this is the first packet, and next week, next month I should say, we'll get another packet and discuss that. So that was that.
Thank you for coming to that.
Okay. There was no building committee, no communication committee.
You know, we won't need that executive session.
We don't need the executive session. Any new business? Okay. Go to the board.
When Harity visited the Capitol, he was a student from the high school, visited Vincent Candelora with Carol Fessigno, and I went to the Music Man February 23rd. It was a Friday. The kids did a phenomenal job. A lot of talent. And I also went...
Was that the intermediate school kids?
That was the intermediate, yep. And I also went and viewed a capstone presentation for senior. Very impressed with what the high school's doing with the capstone presentations. And there's also 4 children, I'm probably going to mess up their names, but they went to the TBS Convention State Finals. They will be at UConn at April 28th. It's Lauren Vateris, Teresa Comfort, Matthew Kloman, and Jaden Brzezinski. So.
Anything else? Visitors and press?
Brandy Little, Old Turnpike Road in Northford. I just want to say, I thought the organized walkout I thought it was pretty good. My niece and nephew live in another school district, and they got forms sent home saying that if anybody walks out, there will be discipline action being taken. So I was glad that our school did something, and it was done in an organized fashion. Both of my children who are in high school participated in it, and I asked my daughter how it was, and she said, we got it. We just got what it was about. And I said, well, what about, she goes, they got it. We were there for the 17 people, and they all got the hearts with the 17 on it, and my daughter came home and it was on her cell phone. So I want to say thank you to the high school for doing something that could have gone completely the opposite direction with just leaving and it being chaotic, but it was done organized, and thank you.
Anyone else? The next regular Board of Education meeting is scheduled for Thursday, April 12th.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. You have to ask for extensions on that.
No.
Mary, I'll be right there.